You know, when the weather warms up, a four-season porch is a great place to relax. But a lot of times, all-season porches have been added, making them really tricky to regulate temperature in, because they weren't designed to be heated and cooled the same way the rest of the house is. When it comes to the need for innovative solutions, Tom Rutkowski has seen it all. And he's here to talk about how to get max comfort with a mini split. Welcome, Tom. Let's start with the basics. What is a mini split?
So a mini split is a piece of equipment that is ductless. There's no ductwork to heat or cool the house. It's all done with a refrigerant line set, which is just two copper pipes ran in a small hole through the wall, and it will efficiently heat and cool the space.
Now, what are the most common spaces you see homeowners applying these units?
So the most common spaces are going to be either 3, 4-season rooms, basements, attics, and even garages.
All right. Explain to us just fundamentally how the system works.
Sure. So essentially you're going to have two pieces of equipment. There's an indoor head or an air handler inside, and then you have your piece of equipment outside, the condenser or the heat pump. That indoor head is where you're actually going to be removing heat from the house or adding it in. And then there's refrigerant inside that line set that runs to your outdoor unit. And then that outdoor unit has a compressor just like you'd see a normal air conditioner or an air source heat pump, and it's going to extract or reject that heat from the ambient air.
All right, now a ductless system certainly is different from a traditional HVAC system. If I'm considering getting one, how do I know that it's worth the investment for a particular space? What factors should I be thinking about?
So you'd want to be looking at a few different factors. Making sure that there's no way to condition that space with traditional ductwork. Looking at the electrical requirements, how you'd get the wiring ran for the outdoor unit, and then how we're going to get that refrigerant line set from the indoor component to the outdoor unit. A lot of consideration needs to be going into the clearance for the indoor unit. There's a certain amount of space around these heads where it needs to be able to circulate airflow properly. So making sure you physically have the space on the wall to put that head, or just the routing of the line set in general.
Let's talk about the general cost. Can you give us a price range for what a mini split costs, and also what could affect that price point?
For a smaller unit, you'd see like a single head, a single outdoor unit for a 3 or 4 season room. They can start as low as, we'll say, $2,500 up to anywhere in the $3,000 to $4,000 range. On multiple head units where we're picking up a couple of different rooms or doing an entire house, you can easily get into the $16,000 to $20,000 range.
Okay, and so are there bells and whistles options that you can have that might influence that price?
There are. So there's a lot of variety within these units. Some will do cooling only. Other ones will do heating and cooling. Those are the ones you'll see as a heat pump. There's single speed compressors, and then there's variable speed compressors or inverter type units. The multiple speed, the inverter type, does carry a little more cost, but it's going to ramp up and down to meet the need of that space more efficiently, more comfortably, and it's going to be a better overall product.
Okay. I've seen some things online, some products that seem similar to this. What do you know about that?
You need to be very wary of it. There's a lot of third-party places that will advertise these on social media. A lot of them are not as efficient. They're harder to get parts for. Warranties are always an issue with them. So it's very important that you talk with someone that's licensed, that's gone through the proper training, and knows what they're doing and has a good product that they're going to stand behind.
Well, I guess with any service or installation, it's always good to have face-to-face contact, right?
It is, and it's very necessary when we're looking at these units to be able to size it up and see how we're going to run that line set to make sure it's going to work properly for the homeowner.
Kind of customize it.
Exactly.
Now here in the Midwest, we have crazy weather, as you know. I mean, we can have heat waves in the summer and we can have Arctic winters. How will mini split heat pumps operate under such extreme weather conditions?
So they work wonderfully for cooling. There's really no issues with that. On the heating side of things, it is something you want to consider. They rate these units anywhere from about 5 degrees to about -13 ambient outdoor. So that's to say that at that temperature, these units will be able to perform at 100% of their design capacity. Now, keeping that in mind, when they get down to that temperature, they have to work a lot harder to be able to produce that kind of heat. there's just not as much heat left in the air to pull from. So if you have a space, a garage, or somewhere that has water, things that can be harmed by cold, you still need to take that into consideration and make sure you have a backup heat source available for when it does get into those very, very cold polar vortexes or whatever might be happening.
Another good reason to consult with a professional.
Exactly.
Okay. So if you wouldn't mind, why don't you walk us through the installation process so we can get a better picture?
Sure, so we'll look at where we're gonna be mounting both of the units. On the outside of the home where the condenser or the heat pump would sit, we'll either install a stand on the ground, or if there's structure available, we can mount a bracket. You'd probably see them a lot on new construction homes for air conditioners, very similar. And then we'll run our line set. So we'll look for a route from the outdoor unit to the indoor unit where we can run this line set that consists of 2 copper pipes. There'll be a communication cable, and then you have your condensate drain. Once we're done running that, we'll do connections on both of the units, do your wiring for it. There's different procedures for different types of units on how we need to pull a vacuum on the lines and install the refrigerant. Once it's charged, we can run through its proper operating procedures, do checks on it, and away you go.
Great, this is good information, and this sounds like such a flexible and relatively affordable option for people.
It is, and in spots where there's just no good way to get ductwork, it's a wonderful option. It gives somebody the opportunity to better control that space, like with a 4-season room. If you have a lot of glass in there and it's very hard to maintain the same temperature in there as it is in the house, this would be its own dedicated zone. You can have that be whatever it wants.
Or if you choose to use it 3 months out of the year, you only pay for heating and cooling for 3 months out of the year.
Correct, and with a very efficient unit.
Great, thanks Tom. If you'd like to learn more about mini splits, go to PowerHouseTV.com.